it's definitely been misinterpreted and just kind of washed over this whole underground music scene as and they just label it as hardcore. Whereas when I was growing up, it was a lot different.
About feeling and stuff like that.
It was a lot more passion, I feel. I feel that the music industry these days in this, genres, in this underground music scene, the passion has kind of gone out the fucking window. For the most part. There's a lot of bands that still have it. There's quite a few. I'm not going to just totally disconnect it. But there's a lot that I feel kind of took the whole thought process of putting thought into their music and just said, fuck it. We're going to try to sound like everybody else. And I don't know. It kind of makes me sick. Realistically, it's just kind of... I feel like I'm getting older. And I'm just kind of growing away from all this or something.
Do you come across bands that focus more on image over substance?
Tons.
All the time.
Tons and tons and tons. Especially locals that open up for us. There's always a deathcore band. There's always a beatdown, hardcore, straightforward band that just really try to look the part more than just play thoughtful music or music they're proud of even. Not even if it's thoughtful, just music they're proud of. I don't think they're proud of it, man. And if they are, then they're lacking a serious amount of something. I don't know. You see a lot of it, though. I mean, when kids are shoveled down their throat with all these bands, that aren't very good, that are all about image, I don't blame it on them necessarily that's what they feel they have to do to come up and stuff, but they're forgetting the idea of making original music to begin with. They want to just try to jump on the coattails or whatever.
It's
not
cliche.
It's cliche.
That's all they want to do.
With that said, what was your focus with Stroma?
I mean, this record was interesting because we didn't have a lot of time to write it. We had 2 months, it was about 3 months, 2.5 months off. And we just I've always written most of the guitar parts and the structures of the songs just because I've been in the band since the beginning, and I was originally a guitar player when we first started this band, nothing on recording, or I wasn't on vocals, but when we first started the band I played guitar and I wrote the songs. And that's never really changed, so I don't know. I mean, it was different in the sense that I'd listened to a lot more music since Capture and Embrace or the Findings EP. I focused on, I just wanted to make the music extremely melodic and extremely, making sure it pulls on the right heartstrings, I mean, it's always been about emotion and emotive music for us, because that's what we always enjoyed growing up. It's not that necessarily we go out of our way to do it just because we feel that's what people want to hear. It's what we want to hear. So the writing process was quick, but how it came out, we were really, really happy with it. I mean, we had a long time to record it. That was the nice part. Short time to write it and a month to record it, which we have never done. It's always been like fast, 10 or 15 days. So we feel that showed there's a lot more time put into it. And Chris, our other guitar player, not Nick here, but he had a chance to shine out on it too because he wrote a lot of the leads on the record, the lead guitars. And most of his are my favorite. So it was nice to kind of see a new breath brought into the band from somebody else, one of the newer members, as opposed to me just writing all the guitars. He got to write quite a bit of it.
As we were talking about hardcore and touring and misinterpretations of bands across the U.S., I did an interview with Walter Streifels of Quicksand, Gorilla Biscuits. He came here not too long ago, and he was explaining how the New York hardcore scene, it went from Agnostic Front and bands like that, and then it spawned into two different scenes where one hardcore scene became more violent.
Yeah.
Do you come across violence at shows?
Definitely. I mean, there are a few bands out there that are pretty much making it very, they're making it very clear that they are about violence and they want that kind of thing to happen at their shows.
What are some of those bands?
I hate to drop names, man, because I don't really want anybody angry with me and stuff, but This is just things I've seen. I mean, there's a few that are doing it big right now, and there's a few that aren't, that are just kind of playing these shows and hopping on these shows in certain areas that are bringing out these kids with, this personality. This should give you a good description. I mean, tattoos on their face, or anywhere that's visible, and just very negative attitudes, thuggish attitudes and ways. I mean, we've never been about that whole thing. I mean, if that's how you want to dress and that's how you want to be, and you don't hurt anybody and you don't affect anybody but yourself, that's fine. I mean, expressing yourself is one thing, but coming out to just completely deliberately hurt people because the music is heavy enough to where you feel like you can is bullshit. I mean, we hate crowd moshing. We're friends with a band called Cypher. I mean, their drummer just passed away, Danny, a good friend of mine, and rest in peace. But we had the chance to play a few great shows with them, and they were always really cool in the sense that they've been around for like 15 years, but they'd never lost sight of what was real, because they were in the New York hardcore scene growing up, and they always made a point to tell people mosh in the middle. That whole idea kind of went away, and now it's about hurting people or hurting innocent people at the shows, and I feel that that's had a big impact on why kids don't come out to shows anymore. Mm-hmm. And we were just talking to kids last night, and they were saying that a lot of our friends don't come out anymore because they don't want to get hit, because people are bringing violence, and they're making sure people know that they stand for violence, and that's something they want to do. It's disheartening, man. It really is.
What was the show that, I think it was in 2007, where you had told people to stop being violent, and you had threw your mic down and damn it, the pizza's here. We should pause for a second. At this one particular show, these kids started fighting during your set, and so you threw down your mic, and you weren't going to come back on until after the kids would stop fighting.
I mean, that kind of thing. Okay. Hardcore has always been controlled violence, in the sense that there are people going nuts, and they're going to be moshing, and there's going to be people throwing it down. And I understand that. Like we talked about earlier, that's going to happen almost every show. But there's a level of respect you have to maintain. I mean, there's rules where it all began, like in New York and shit. That's where it happened. You moshed in the middle so you wouldn't hurt anybody. If you did, you apologized, and that was that, and it was over. Now, people feel the serious need to hurt other individuals.
Promote violence.
And whether it be even if it's a young girl. Our friend Danette from San Antonio, Texas, had been a victim of some serious crowd moshing to where it fractured her orbital. She had to have multiple facial reconstructive surgeries, and it was terrible. I mean, that was just a perfect example of shit that goes down that I don't want any part of. So when shows go off, I'll let one fight happen. I will. I'll say, hey guys, this is it. There's no more, we don't fight it during an Prevails set. Like, sorry. If you've read our lyrics at all, that's not something we condone or we don't allow it happening. In that particular show, it happened in Texas, and they just didn't stop. I mean, it was like, it wasn't even as they were there to watch us or give a shit about it Prevails. They just wanted to kind of settle personal beef within the scene, and it happened to be during our set. Mm-hmm. So there was it was on the third consecutive fight, third song into the set, and I said, I'm done. I'm not going to allow this to happen. I don't want to see people get hurt. I'm not going to allow police to show up here and shut this show down. So I sat down the mic and I didn't play. And it's something I would probably still do today, because we just don't condone it. It's not what we're about, We are the exact opposite. We are about people accepting everyone and being there for the music. And we understand moshing is a part of it, but we're not there for violence. We're not going to let that happen. It's definitely not during our set.
Not to interrupt, but you want to grab that chair so you can sit down?
You want to take a seat over here, bud?
Speaking about music industry stuff, more particularly about public relations, how much do you feel it affects the band getting out to the public versus a band that doesn't have money that's just consistently touring?
Well, I feel that if you're a brand new band, it's probably going to go a long way. It'll help a lot. And a label's generally more willing to give those bands a little more because they want to see how they do. Whereas a band at our level, it helps. But I feel some people just dismiss it because, I've heard them before. I don't know any of their new shit. I don't need to listen to it or whatever, And I don't know. I definitely feel it's important, but I also feel that maybe some labels put the money in the wrong directions, and it could be used better in other places. Online's a huge thing now. You know, obviously online is taking over everything, and the prices of ad pages and magazines are just skyrocketing. So it's difficult, man. It's difficult to decide where you want to put your money.
When young bands come up to you and ask you the course of action in which they can take to get to the position you're at, to where you're touring consistently, what do you tell them?
To do it.
Well, the first thing I say is make sure you're writing music and putting out music that you're extremely proud of and you know is different. And we talked about that earlier, but I mean, that's number one for me, you know. Make sure you know your music's good. Don't just write music that sounds like everybody else. Write stuff that you know is different. It's going to set you apart. That makes a label want to sign you and help you and get you out on the road, you know.
You're not going to catch a buzzwave if you're doing the same thing that's already been done. People want to hear something new and interesting.
People need to put more thought into their music. And that's what I always tell these people, you know, because we do get that question a lot. I mean, once a week at least, maybe more. And they're always saying, what can we do to be where you guys are at? How are you guys where you're at? What did you do? I mean, that's a tough question to answer in itself. I mean, it's, you know, it's a lot of luck, hard work, a lot of that too. I mean, but, you know, I mean, there's just so many variables. It's hard to answer that question particularly.
Do you feel like kids put too much emphasis on getting signed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's bands out there right now that aren't signed that are fucking exceptional. Particular band we've been listening to recently, Restore. They just put out a EP, a lengthy EP that is wonderful. And I heard about it through word of mouth, through some of my other friends that have said, I think you should check this out, you'll really like it. And when I hear that now, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of weary. But these kids really did a great job. And they're not signed to a label, and they're doing tour dates. And I can, you know, I respect that sort of thing. They kind of looked at it for what it was, and if you do the hard work, you put the hard work down, and you make sure you have good music, it's going to pick up eventually. It's going to happen for you, you know. Whereas, like you said, kids are more focused on just making sure they get on the label first. Like, a label isn't going to give you everything to tour. They're not going to give you the tour. They're not going to give you the van and trailer, the gear, the music. They're not going to give you all that. A lot of that's on your own end. Kids have a hard time understanding that.
Once you get to a label, great, you're going to have distribution, but if you don't have something worthy to distribute and make a viable push in the industry, then you're just going to get to a point and then realize that you can't go any further.
Yep.
What are some bands that are doing it right that you completely admire out there right now?
I love Defeater. I think they're incredible. I love their music. I love the tours they choose to put themselves on. I'm talking to them as people. I love them. I mean, they're doing it right, and I enjoy everything that they've put out, and they just keep getting better. And you know, there's only a few bands that I really, really enjoy and like how their approach is, you know, and that's definitely one of them for me. The first one that comes up is Defeater.
What about for you guys?
Well, I'm trying to think of difference between music I really enjoy right now or bands that I really enjoy as far as what they're doing. I mean, just talking with our immediate tour right now, a band like No Bragging Rights that followed Warped Tour for years without even guaranteeing playing a show, just for the hope of getting on and getting, you know, that sort of publicity. I think that's admirable.
Yeah, any hard work is admirable. As long as the band puts in their hard work, I give them all the props in the world. But it's kind of fleeting these days, man. Not a lot of people are trying to do that. They're trying to just be in the right place at the right time. And that's why I feel we see a lot of bands come and go quickly. In the past 4 years, we've seen so many bands get big real quick, and then they're gone. And it just keeps happening, whereas the career bands that were doing it for a while, you know, like Poison the Well back in the day, or, you know, As They Lay Dying, and they're still doing it and stuff, but, you know, they made kind of a slight career out of it. And a lot of bands don't even care to do that type of thing anymore. It's one album, a couple tours, they're gone.